So this OBM was 3 minutes into the sales call when she realized that she was in a hell of a lot of trouble. And not because the lead was difficult per se, not even because they were price shopping and possibly entertaining other OBMs to work with, but because the questions that she was being asked were painfully simple. Things like, so, OBM, what does working with you actually look like? And these sort of questions really caused her to freeze on the call, on the sales call, because she knows what she does. She knows the tools. She could describe the kind of support that she gives clients. But when it came to explaining the quote unquote container, right? The shape of the work, the outcome, the sort of edges of things, that's when everything kind of came out fuzzy. So she did what a lot of us do when we're trying to buy ourselves a second. And she started to fill the silence with, you know, like various things that she was doing with her clients, the kinds of Slack messages that she was getting, or timelines around projects, like really random things that she'd helped past clients with. And halfway through this sales conversation, she caught herself thinking, and you have those conversations out loud, but in your head, she said to herself, I sound like I'm pitching chaos. And after this call, she came to me in one of her sessions and she said, look, I know I'm good at what I do, but when I try to sell, I can't lead the conversation. I end up reacting instead of guiding. And what was so interesting about this particular OBM was, she knew right away what the issue was, right? When your packages aren't clear, you have trouble leading the sales call, right? You can only explain your way through it, right? And the client feels that, right? So if a sales call feels messy, if pricing conversations are spiraling, if you leave calls wondering why you talked so much, but maybe even said so little, this episode is for you, because 9 times out of 10, this isn't a confidence problem. It's an offer design problem. Hey, and welcome back to the OBM Show. I'm Sarah Noked, and this is the place where we talk about what it actually looks like to build and lead a sustainable online business management practice, not just on paper, but in real life. Here, we talk about the parts of the work that don't always make it into the highlight reel, right? The messy middle, the blurry roles, the leadership decisions you're making quietly, often without much support. So whether you are transitioning from corporate, moving from VA work into the OBM role, or already working with clients and trying to do this more intentionally, you, my friends, are in the right place. Now, quick heads up if you're listening in real time, OBM week starts soon. We start the week of Monday, April the 27th. It is free, it is live, and it is where we go deep on packages, clients, and what it actually looks like to step into the OBM role with clarity. And it's totally free. So if this episode hits home, OBM Week will help you turn this insight into a real actionable plan. You can register for free at obmschool.com/OBM-week. All right, let's get back into what we see constantly in our community. OBMs who are smart, capable, already working with clients even, sometimes for years, but still feel weirdly unsure when it comes to sell what they do. Okay, not because they don't know operations, and it's certainly not because they don't get the strategy, but it's because their offers were built in a reaction mode. Okay, a little bit of what one client needed, a little bit of what another asked for, a little bit of what felt safe maybe to promote or promise at the time. Over time, the package becomes a grab bag. And I hate that term, but it really does start to feel like that. So when you're on a sales call, you're not just leading someone through a clear path. You are scanning your memory, pulling examples out, hoping that something lands. And after the call, you feel oddly deflated. Not rejected, just unclear. That's the moment most OBMs internalize this as a confidence issue. But what's actually happening is simpler and harder, right? You can't lead a conversation about work that hasn't been clearly shaped. And no amount of mindset work will fix an offer that doesn't know what it's responsible for. Period. End of story. So, I hear these stories a lot and I'm like, yeah, of course, right? One of our students came into OBM school after years as a VA. I'm talking like 7 years, right? So she had history with her clients, trust, context. So when she stepped into the OBM role and was very gung ho about making that transition and that her clients were in need of an OBM, she assumed that the evolution would be obvious, right? But it wasn't because she didn't redesign the offer. She just named it, right? Same scope, same responsiveness, same emotional labor. The only difference was the price. And at first it felt fine, right? And then over time, the cracks start to show up, right? So she still was that first point of contact. She still was the one holding everything together, still absorbing the urgency that wasn't hers. And she said to me, Sarah, I feel like I'm leading, but I'm still being used like support. I'm still in this like implementation role, and I can't get out of doing all the things. And I remember thinking, wow, that sentence is a whole diagnosis because, her package never told the client the rules had changed. The offer never made it clear. This isn't task support, this is operational leadership. So we rebuilt it into a defined 90-day operational container, right? Clear outcomes, clear milestones, clear decision lanes, and something really subtle but very powerful happened. She stopped explaining herself. Sales calls got shorter. Clients came in clearer. And her day-to-day finally matched the level that she was operating at. So nothing about her skill set changed, only the structure did, okay? So if this episode feels uncomfortably familiar, it's probably because you recognize these patterns, right? They don't look wrong on paper. They actually sound really impressive. And especially when you're making that VA to OBM transition, you almost don't want to rock the boat. But always remember one of our key manifestos inside of OBM school, and it's really about leaving the business better off than how you found it. So if you know that that client needs an online business manager and needs that kind of operational leadership, a strategic retainer with no concrete outcomes or a fractional OBM without decision authority, is going to result in tool-based packages instead of result-based containers. So ongoing retainers that never reset or evolve are dangerous, right? And here's why they're dangerous. So every single one requires interpretation. And interpretation means that you are deciding over and over again what's yours to carry, week in, week out, client after client. And that constant mental negotiation is what will ultimately drain you. And that's why it sort of sneaks up over time, right? It's not the work itself that's exhausting. It's this lack of a clear container that you have now to set. So I see this a lot, as I already mentioned, with VAs making the transition. But I also see this a lot with the OBMs coming in straight from those corporate environments, right? So in corporate, clarity is really built in, right? You know where your role starts, you know where your role ends, you know more or less who decides what. And, it might be fuzzy, it might not be so black and white, but online business and being an OBM and working in this way with clients doesn't give you that by default, right? So unless you intentionally build it, the work will expand to fill every single gap and it will drive you insane. And we've watched incredibly seasoned leaders start to doubt themselves. And it's not because they lost capability, certainly, right? It's because they lost the structure. They were leading without containers, and leadership without containers feels heavy. So here's the shift that I want you to think about, and here's the shift that can really change everything for you, right? Your offer as an OBM teaches clients how to use you, not your personality, not your boundaries, your offer. And when your package is vague, my friends, your clients will fill in the blanks. And when your container is, let's say, porous or full of holes, right, your workload will swell, right? And that's why boundaries don't really work in isolation. They have to be reinforced by the structure that you build, or it will all collapse and feel very heavy. So, a strong OBM package does a few things really clearly. It defines outcomes, not tasks. It creates decision making lanes, and it has a start, a middle, and an end, right? It protects capacity by design. And if you position yourself as a leader, not a catch all, you will see a huge transformation. And we see this a lot inside of our OBM school certification program, our OBM accreditation program, where OBMs stop selling effort and they start selling impact or transformation, okay? Now, if you're a business owner and you're listening to the OBM show, maybe you are the OBM currently in your business, or maybe you're thinking about hiring one, you're probably thinking to yourself, this explains why everything still runs through me, right? This explains why I'm still at the helm of all the things. So you don't need more help. You probably need operational leadership. And that's why businesses turn to our accredited OBM directory over at obmschool.com/directory. I'm going to leave all the links in the show notes and the description below. Every OBM on our directory has gone through formal training, real world application, and ongoing professional development. And if you are like, Sarah, just hook me up, and you want to hand your reins over to a trusted partner, you are for sure going to want to start at obmschool.com/matchmaking, where we will personally step in and find you your dream OBM. Now, if this episode made you rethink how your package works, let that be useful information, not something to push past. You don't need stronger barriers or boundaries. You need a better container, right? And if you want us to walk you through how to rebuild that container in a way that actually sells cleanly and protects your capabilities and capacity, I want you to join us for OBM Week. We start Monday, April 27th. It's free, it's live, and it's really going to help you get clearer and more confident and hopefully make some moves, right? So you can sign up for free, RSVP at obmschool.com/OBM week. Yes, we will be having replays available if you can't make it live, although I do recommend you come on live because we will have giveaways every day. You're going to find tools and trainings and a whole bunch of resources over at obmschool.com/resources. If you are curious about working more closely with us through training, community, or professional development, I invite you to explore obmschool.com/programs. And if you really want to learn more about what it looks like to step fully into the OBM role with confidence and clarity, so however you found this episode, I am really glad you're here. These conversations really exist to help you build a business that actually supports your life. I will see you in the next episode.